Fox News Alert, and the breaking news of the day is on tariffs. And we just have word that the Mexican president spoke to Donald Trump, and they are going to pause the tariffs on Mexico for 1 month. And Jacqui Heinrich is standing by at the White House with more on this development. Hi, Jacqui.
Good morning, Dana. Yeah, that was pretty short-lived. The president spoke with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, the two sides agreeing to pump the brakes on the tariffs and then retaliatory tariffs that Mexico promised for the period of a month while they work out the terms of an agreement. The Mexican president just posted some of the details. Mexico is going to immediately send 10,000 members of the National Guard to prevent drug trafficking from Mexico to the United States, particularly fentanyl. Also, she says the U.S. is going to work with Mexico to prevent the trafficking of high-powered weapons to Mexico, something that Mexico hit back at when President Trump was threatening these tariffs. Was they were calling on the U.S. to curb the flow of guns from the U.S. down to the cartels. Sheinbaum says the two teams are going to begin working today on two fronts, security and trade. And President Trump posted on Truth Social that part of that team is going to include Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, as well as some representatives from Mexico. The president says he's going to be speaking with outgoing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at 3 o'clock. He posted to Truth Social, Canada doesn't even allow U.S. banks to open or do business there. What's all that about? Many such things, but it's also a drug war. Hundreds of thousands of people have died in the U.S. from drugs pouring through the borders of Mexico and Canada. Just spoke to Justin Trudeau and will be speaking to him again at 3 p.m. So a glimmer of hope there for Canada that they might be able to also achieve a pause, as Mexico did, if some terms are agreed to. But certainly a lot of fast-moving developments here this morning ahead of that midnight deadline when the 25% tariffs were set to go into effect, Dana.
I want to hop in here. This Truth Social suggests that this negotiation is kind of the start of this deal. As you put up this Truth Social, the 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and United States, as well as you mentioned this team of Rubio, Bessent, Lutnick to negotiate whatever this deal looks like. So what the Mexicans are agreeing to now may be just the first step in what President Trump wants to happen before the month.
Yeah, Brett, it does sound like that. Certainly you had the president last night when he returned to the White House talking about trade deficits and that being a component of his gripe with these countries. He also, in that discussion, mentioned that he would be looking at the EU and potentially the UK to pursue some tariffs against them. We assume to achieve some sort of similar trade deal. But you did have the NEC director come out this morning and try to sort of soften the president's remarks about this being about trade, saying, look, it's a drug war, it's not a trade war. The main focus for this administration is certainly about illegal immigration and illegal drugs pouring across the border. And that was something that President Trump spoke about all through the campaign and in the lead up to this coming into effect. Right.
Jacqui, one of the things President Trump did last night is, in the quick video that he did, he said that there might be some short-term pain for Americans, but saying that it would be worth it in the end.
Yeah, and that was a pretty significant admission, I think, because when you look at these three countries, Canada, Mexico, and China, that's about 40% of U.S. imports. So there's really no way to avoid some kind of pain when it's an across-the-board tariff, especially when you consider that the 10% tariff for Canada was on energy as well. So you could see some ramifications. Of course, Democrats jumped on that ahead of the Super Bowl. They were saying that this is a Trump tax increase, and look at your Corona beer and your guacamole, and you can blame the president if your prices go up. But the president, in talking about the possibility that we would feel some pain, really doubled down on the unfair practices of these countries. He really took issue with Canada and said that they've been abusive to the U.S. in terms of trade. And he also repeated his points on illegal immigration and on the flow of fentanyl. So it was something to hear him say that, but it was also obvious to a certain extent. But this, avoiding that from happening, at least for the next 30 days, we saw this go on with his negotiations with Colombia. That was, the briefest of trade wars I think we've seen yet. So certainly he's a strong negotiator, was able to get something done this morning, and we'll see if more comes together in the next 30 days and we can stave it off permanently for all these countries.
Yeah, we're looking live in Mexico City, Jackie, and that is the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, giving some briefing to reporters about what has just transpired. The interesting thing here is, as Mexico is saying, here's what we're going to do, we've got a 1-month pause, whether that message translates to Canada and how that goes, with the same tariffs that go into effect at midnight tonight.
You will see. I mean, the president also was pretty complimentary of Mexico when he was talking about this going into effect. He said, look, we've had some good conversations, but we got to do it. He hasn't been quite as complimentary to Trudeau. He's been complimentary to the people of Mexico, but said he's got problems with the leadership there. So we'll see how their conversation goes at 3.
Jacqui Heinrich at the White House with the breaking news. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Jackie.